Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Night Writer podcast. I'm Christina. I'm very pleased to welcome an award-winning author and visual artist, Jenn Ashton. Jenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. And you're here to promote your new book, People Like Frank and Other Stories from the Edge of Normal.
That's right, yeah.
So before we launch into that, I just wanted to say, when I read these stories, it really reminded me of when I was a kid and I used to read these stories, these kind of folk tales, and you'd know that there's always a deeper, it's written for children, but you know that there's always a deeper meaning underneath. And then you don't realize it until years later as an adult, and then you read it and then you go, oh my gosh, that's quite dark actually. But then you don't think about it when you're a kid. And it actually really reminded me of those stories, because you can't really get them anymore now. And it really struck a chord to me when I was reading it. So thank you for that.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Is it something that you were conscious of when you were writing that? And is that something you wanted to do?
Well, you know what? I think well, first of all, in my art and my writing, I think I'm kind of simplistic. So I write very simply, same way I paint, just very simply. But I don't actually have a plan of what I'm going to write. So these stories, the majority of them were written in November 2019 for NaNoWriMo, and they were written as flash fiction, most of them. And then we just kind of, once the publisher took them on, we lengthened them quite a bit, to make enough for a book. But they kind of just evolve as I'm writing, and I don't really have a plan, so they just kind of flow, I want to say. Yeah, spill, exactly, yeah. Kind of just same as my paint, it just, colors on the page and turns into something at the end. And it's funny because when we do a writer's group or something, somebody will read something and they'll see something different in it, and I'll be like, oh wow, I had no idea that was there. So when you say that, it's like, yeah, sometimes I have no idea what's going to show up or even what's there after I read it.
Yeah, audiences and readers kind of pick different things, or it connects something to someone else.
Yeah.
I was so happy you said you didn't have a plan, because that's something I was actually going to ask about your writing process. I know a lot of writers have to plan everything and put diagrams and plan all the characters and the details and the backstories. For me, sometimes it works like that, but sometimes I just have to just get it all out. I like to say word vomit it all out on the page. And flash fictions and short stories, I think, I don't know, do you find that easier than writing maybe novels?
I think so, on one hand, because it's shorter, obviously, so it's just logical that it's easier. But at the same time, it can be even more difficult because you need to really focus, and you need to be able to tell that story as fully as you can within a short period of time and within a short period of words. And when you're writing something longer, of course, there's like all this time you can spend developing characters and scenes and plots and themes. And yeah, so on the one hand, different things make it easier, different things make it harder, but I love it. I love the challenge of really having to make your words sharp, and being really concise and clear. I really like that aspect of it.
Yeah, because then you can just get to the point straight away and tell what it is you want to tell without going around the houses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But having said that, is there any stories that you've written in this book, and probably not in this book, that you would consider lengthening into a novel, or any characters you want to?
Yeah, there was that one, The Weatherman, which is the kind of is it science fiction-y, kind of, maybe fantasy, maybe. It started off, this was one that I actually wrote, this is one of the older ones in here. I think it might be the only old one. It's about over 20 years old. Excuse me. And it started off, I didn't ever expect that it would be a short story. I'd planned on at some point lengthening it, but when it came to the time and the publisher said, what have you got? And I just kind of sent it in. I said, this can go either way. And they were like, yeah, it's good. Just kind of end it. And yeah, so that's what we did. But I think it kind of planned to be something longer.
So when you write all the short stories, do you sometimes, how do you kind of get your inspiration for them? Is it from around?
It can be like dreams.
Really?
I'll wake up sometimes and I'll actually have the whole story in my mind, and I just need to like hurry up and get out and write it down. Or sometimes I'll think of the first line when I wake up. It's kind of, a lot has to do with early morning writing, and when I'm kind of in that half awake, half asleep place, right in there is kind of like where stuff just kind of comes out of my brain. So sometimes it's partial, sometimes it's a line, sometimes it's just, the beginning sentence, and then I just have to sit down and let it kind of come out. Ideas, or sometimes, for example, The Bag and I is based on a true story, of course, with my recycling guy. And so just like weird things that I write down because I think, I don't know, maybe somebody will find this funny or something like that.
And I suppose, are there any people in your life that you've put in character form? Or you don't have to mention them, you have to say them by name.
There are a few in the book, I will say, yes. And there's like some kind of vignettes of me in various forms, various stages of my life. Various people I've met, but kind of combinations of people, I would say, different characteristics. It's like when you're painting and you don't want to paint somebody nose, so you take their nose and somebody else's eyes and make up a character. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a mishmash of characters, but the idea of the person is in my mind as I'm writing, even if it doesn't come out on the page like that.
Yeah, just as an inspiration, like talking painting,
Exactly.
just model, like, sculpting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all writers and authors have to put a bit of themselves into something as well. I mean, I think that's just natural. It's cathartic to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and they always say, write what you know. And I think that's always a really good place to start. And I tell students, who don't know what to put on the page, I just say, start with yourself. Talk about your 5th birthday party. Talk about, just try and write yourself, because that's the thing the best, I hope. And, you can write experiences and stuff, and it's a good place to start, and it's also a good practice for when you do get stuck or something, just to write about something that so there's definitely parts of me and everything, some more vivid than others.
How did you come up with the title of the collection?
My publisher came up with it. I wanted to call it something completely different, and I was like bent on having this like title. I had it in my head and I wanted it to be called this, and I won't say it out loud because I might still use it for another book, but no, my publisher came up with it, and it ended up being perfect, I think, for the collection.
Yeah, because the edge of normal, I mean, I want to ask you, like, what do you think that means? What were you?
Well, you know what? I think we were thinking that this collection specifically is about people who are maybe not in the mainstream, but are still living or trying to live their best life, given their situation. So I think that kind of edge of normal, I mean, that's definitely where I live. So it would make sense. That's where my characters live too. Just kind of, not they're not popular in their lives, and they're just kind of doing their best and happy in their lives, or trying to get happy in their lives.
Yeah, and I think normal is quite a subjective word anyway. Now, what is normal? Because you, like, or for us, any of us, we live our lives and think, oh yeah, this is totally normal for me, but it might not be for somebody else, which is what you see in your stories as well. Is everyone, like you said, trying to live their best lives, their normal lives. My favorite one was Jennifer 10, the one about the bipolar mother.
Oh, Virginia 10.
Yeah. Sorry, I just you're Jennifer. Sorry.
That's all right.
My apologies.
That's okay.
um yeah, that one, because it was so it's yeah, stuck in my mind so much. I was just I what was the just wanted to ask what the inspiration was.
Um, Throughout my life, I've worked a lot with social services and in child protection, and this story is probably a culmination of experiences that I've had with different people and things I've read, and again, just a mishmash of things I've pulled. But that's my background as working with vulnerable populations. And I think that's kind of also why this book is so important, because um, I want it to kind of move out of the shadow of these people. I would like them to be the stars of their own life. And I would like somebody to be able to pick up this book and read a story, and see themselves in the story. You know, and they might not be great heroes of the world, but they're, you know what I mean? I want to like spotlight them. And I think for this one, you know, having worked with vulnerable kids, I really wanted Virginia to be the superstar here, and just to have people see what it's like for other people, just to peel back the curtain and show you that this is what goes on, and this is how it works, and some people are living this way. And I'm hoping that it helps people be empathetic to other people.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I mean, it definitely, I was reading it, I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. And I'm sure, yeah, people who, even who have not so much if they're bipolar, but who live with someone who is, or if they're a carer, they
Yeah,
will have a connection with the story as well.
yeah.
You're also an artist as well. How do you paint your stories and write them as well, or is it just
I often, when I paint, I get a little thing in my head, you know, that will, it will kind of be a story. So I'll, you know, if I'm posting on social media or something, I'll write a little story beside the painting. I haven't really painted like a story, although now that you mention it, last week I was really looking into doing a graphic novel. So I was reading all about graphic novels and looking them up and looking at them. And I thought that maybe something interesting to try. I don't know if I can like paint the same thing over and over again. Like, I don't know if I could paint one character the same. And I think that's, you probably have to be able to do that. But it might be a goal though, because it looks pretty interesting.
because there are yeah, art your artwork is in the book.
Yes. Yeah, that was just actually my publisher picked out those paintings to go with the stories, because I have a lot of paintings. And so there was, I think though, I think she did a really good job choosing the ones. And the cover also is my favorite painting. And it really ended up going well with the book. And I think I'm really super lucky that I was able to have my art in the book and use it for the cover. So that was kind of a big bonus.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it reminded me. I think of just I don't know why it just popped into my head when I was reading it. Just the old the Charles Dickens novels. We know it used to have those the art,
Yeah.
yeah, the illustration with the stories as you go in, because
Yeah.
because again of the subjects that it's quite hard hitting.
Yeah.
Um, would you ever consider, I mean, like you were talking about graphic novels, maybe putting this story into like an animation format? Because it's something that I could see when I was with the paintings, and then with the story, it's something that I could see just in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of places these stories could go. I tried to send them to Amazon, but I didn't make the cut for a series, because I thought, oh, these might be an interesting series if they were all together of you know, half-hour shows or something. But yeah, I could definitely see them animated or anything. I definitely do not have that capability, but if anybody wants to do one, let me know.
Your writing is quite reminds me. I don't know. It's personal. When I was reading it, quite folk style. Is that something that you've? I mean, your voice that you wanted to do, or is it just a natural your natural
I
writing?
think that's just my voice. I think this is just the way I write. Yeah, like I said, try to keep it very authentic and kind of minimal. And I, I keep saying simplistic, but I don't want mean for it to sound simple. But I would like um, my stories to be read by all levels of readers. So I always keep it very authentic and very, yeah, simple. I don't know what's another word for simple, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And we've got some dates to tell people about. There's a charity event coming up.
Yeah, there's going to be a charity event September 1st to 7th. We are going to do an ebook sale in the UK and Canada. Anybody that buys the ebook off Amazon, we're going to be donating the proceeds to Dystonia. So Dystonia UK and Dystonia Canada. And that's all of the net proceeds from ebook sales.
I'll put all the links in the description on the YouTube channel and
Awesome.
podcast channel as well, as well as to all your websites and a link.
Thank you.
You can download the book as well.
Yeah.
Are you working on anything new at the moment?
I have 2 books sitting at a publisher and they're deciding whether they want them. A middle grade book and also a kind of auto fiction, I guess it would be called, kind of memoirish. And I'm working on some art projects right now. I'm working with actually a composer in the UK, and he's given me some music to put some art to. So I'm working on some stop motion film for him. And my writing, actually, I'm kind of doing worky writing right now. I'm the writer in residence at the British Columbia History Magazine for the year. So I've been working on a couple of articles for them. So nothing kind of major. I've got like a whole ton of projects that I'm always kind of picking up and putting down, but those are kind of all at the forefront right now, and some classwork for creative writing students and things like that.
So busy, very busy for you.
Oh yeah, busy, always busy.
Just going back to the short stories, because this is something that I haven't actually interviewed a short story writer before, and is actually a different medium to writing novels. We talked about. But I think just for people listening who want to dabble into short stories or want to change, what would you advise to put them all into a collection or publish them sort of one at a time in like novella formats?
You know what? A lot of my stories have been previously published. So it's definitely okay to write a short story and submit it somewhere to a journal or a magazine or an online magazine. And that can kind of actually give you a bit more traction when you take your stories to a publisher and you can show them that they've already been published somewhere. So that is actually a big step. But I would say that when you're writing your short stories, if you can plan, try and write them with a theme, around a theme, because publishers need to see a cohesion for the stories, some kind of theme, anything. And if you can't write with a plan the way I do, just write tons. And then there should be some that you can pick and choose that will fit into a theme. But yeah, I know a lot of people ask me, is it okay to get something published and then send it to a publisher? It certainly is. I think they want to see, nowadays, there's just so many people writing and there's so many books out there. They want to see that other people are reading your work. So yeah, I would say submit everywhere. Contests and things like that. And yeah, magazines, literary journals. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I was going to ask how many like compiles into a book, how many stories, sort of maximum, minimum?
I don't think there's any kind of maximum or minimum. I think it depends on how strong the theme is. You know, for a shorter collection, there's 20 short stories in here, and this is like I think 200 pages, almost 200 pages. Yeah, pretty close. And that's probably kind of as small as a typical publisher would be interested in, I think. But, every publisher's got their own requirements, and I definitely, before you send in, read their requirements. Otherwise, they often won't look at it if you don't do what they ask.
Do you send straight to a publisher, or do you go through agents first?
I do publishers. I actually have sent, I think at the beginning of 2020 in January, the first week of January, I got this other novel that's finished, and I was so keen. I sat down and I wrote to like 25 agents trying to flog it around to UK and Canada, and a few wrote back and said no thank you, but just crickets from the rest. I never hear back from agents. So I'm thinking that maybe after I've done another book, maybe an agent will be interested, but they've got a lot to choose from. So, and they're I don't know if it's absolutely necessary to have an agent.
Because you've got it's published, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it might be nice after I have like a few books out to have an agent to kind of deal with the day-to-day. Yeah. So maybe down the road, but yeah, for now, just write to the publisher. And although there's not a lot of publishers will take unsolicited manuscripts, so you just have to poke around and find the ones that will.
Yeah, it's annoying when that happens. It's just we don't take unsolicited. Okay.
Yeah.
Cross that off the list.
Yeah, exactly.
So finally, what would you hope that people can get from your stories and your
Like I said, I really hope that they can get an empathy or compassion for other people that are maybe look quite different to them, and their situations look quite different. I think, yeah, that's what I would really hope for, is I just want to open the door so people can have a peek at what some other lives look like. And, also know that not to be discouraged if you're in that situation, because, a lot of them have happy endings, and they have creative endings, I think. Like, you can live a very different life creatively, and that's still pretty great, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
And as an author, how does it feel to hold your book in your hands like a publisher?
Yeah, it feels amazing. But
Yeah.
you know what? I haven't read it yet. I have this thing where I can't read something after.
Yeah, because it's so in your head, and you just want to look at it anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. I'm exhausted from this book, but I think I've kind of read it, and I've started reading a few stories, and I'm just like, oh man, I would change that. But I think I'm a perfectionist, and I could just go on changing it forever. So, but maybe one day I'll read it. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, actually, just one more question. Because when you said that, your editing process, do you edit as you go along, or do you edit afterwards? Because I find that really hard.
I do what you do. I blah all onto the page, and I think they call it the bloated first draft, just like write everything that comes out, and then I go back and edit, and I'll cut to size, or I'll just, tidy it up. But then, because these were a lot of flash fiction, a lot of them had to be made longer. So then by the time I got a publisher, they did the editing also, and then we're coming back, and we did, back and forth. I think I got signed in March of last year, and the book came out in October, and literally probably every second in between was editing. So there was a lot of editing to do. But usually I just write, and then I'll tidy it up. Sometimes I'll send stuff out, I'll write it and I'll send it right away if I think it's okay. But yeah, the editing comes later. And a lot of people say that the editing part is where the actual story is carved out of. And I think I believe that, because you can write a whole bunch of words and get it out onto the page, but then when you go back and read it, it can actually turn into something completely different. So I think the editing is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never edit. Oh, and I'll tell you a secret too. When I'm writing, I'll either dim the screen on my computer, or I'll make the font like so tiny I can't read it, to stop myself from editing as I'm writing.
Really?
Yeah, so I'll just write without seeing it, and that will prevent me from going back and changing this, because I can get caught up just like changing one sentence, it'll get stuck in my head for some reason. And yeah, so I'll try not to look at what I'm writing and just type, and then go back and edit later,
I've
obviously.
never heard of that trick before. That's really good. I might try that.
I know. It works.
Yeah, because otherwise then you get too caught up on just that one line and then you're not moving on with the story, and it's just like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like you're losing stuff as you're getting more caught up in the one thing. Your brain is so focused on that, you might be losing something really important. So yeah, I just try and get everything out, especially if I'm in the flow of it, and I'll just try and get as much on the page as I can. And I'm not a very fast typer, but it works.
Yeah. Just go back to flash fiction, actually, because I was going to say, if people listening who don't know what flash fiction is, it's basically very, very short stories in literally a few lines. I think there's a limit, but it's just very, very short.
I think there's different kinds of flash fiction too. I think some people say up to 1,000 words, some people up to 500, 250, 300, and then there's micro flash that can be like 50 or 25 words where you need to actually tell the whole story.
Yeah, one of the ones we always learn in creative writing, because I studied creative writing at university, and it's always the I think it was Ernest Hemingway, the baby shoes one, baby shoes for sale, never worn. That one.
Yeah.
And that's just one that everyone, when you're trying to introduce someone to write a short story or to pitch their story in one line, even, because you have to do that, or a synopsis, you just do those exercises where you try and write one story in like 6 words or something. Yeah.
It's hard. I did actually win a first line contest in the UK for the first line of Nest, which was...
Yeah, I was going to say that, actually. That really drew me in. I was incredible.
Yeah.
Do you want to read it out for us?
Yeah. At 3 p.m., Betty put down her knitting needles and died.
I was like, okay, yeah.
So that could be a really short micro flash on its own.
Yeah, it could. The image is just so clear, and almost kind of comical in a way. I don't know. I just darkly comical.
Yeah.
These first lines are important when you're trying to hook your readers in any story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That one I think came out as a dream. I woke up in the morning with that in my mind and wrote it down, and then the whole rest of the story kind of followed.
So many dreams.
I know. There's so much in here, you have no idea.
Good. That's what Thank you so much, Jen, for coming on the show. I'll put all the links and on all the dates in the descriptions for people.
Thanks very much for having me. This was super fun, Christina. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.